This is a reading of The Miracle, written by Shashi Deshpande, read by Prerna. My heels made a clacking sound on the floor. I pushed open the swinging door with my shoulders and entered the room. Both the heads were bent over the table, close together. Hers sleek and dark, his untidy, rumpled and brown. As I walked in, the head straightened up. Yes, he said questioningly, his hand going to his glasses, ready to put them on. Glasses on or off, it made no difference. He never saw me. The electron microscope, they tell me, helps you to see things so infinitely small, smaller than you ever dreamed of. What I wonder will help man to see a girl 5'2" in heels and always dressed in brightly colored saris. The reports, I said, putting them down on the table. Even as I reached the door, I could hear them continuing their talk. They spoke the same language. I didn't. When they said the bronchogenial carcinoma, I said, poor man with the 3 children. But why go on? And anyway, I wasn't there to talk to them, just to type out their reports. That's what a typist is for. I was almost out of the door when she called me back. Send Narayan in, will you? These reports have to go in. Send Narayan in, not even my name. My heart was hammering, and not with love. He isn't around, I said. I never madamed her, nor did I ever sir him. You should have been in the States, an irate employer had once said to me. You would be more comfortable calling your boss Hi Jim. Is that why I have changed jobs so fast? A rolling stone, that's me. 10 jobs in 4 years, and 1 year in the last one. If anyone had told me I would last that long in this place where you work with the smell of death in your nose and have to type words like listeria monocytogenes without batting an eyelid, I would have called him crazy. Yet here I was, anchored by this man who passed me without a first look, leave alone a second. But then what can you expect of a man who walks past a flaming gulmohar tree in the May without an upward glance? Well, look for him, she said brusquely. He's wanted here urgently. Why did you dislike me so? A woman's instinct. It isn't always a joke. Okay, I replied, noticing that the heads came together again. I walked out with an odd thought. It's true. It does pain you where your heart is. Let them. These doctors. Tell me again that the heart is nothing but a pump. And there was Narayan walking towards me in that long corridor with the smell of preserved death. Narayan, I beckoned him and he followed me into my tiny cubicle. Narayan, where were you? You are wanted immediately to take the reports. The doctor. I stopped Narayan's face. What's wrong? They are killing him. Raja, they're going to kill him. Drunk? Impossible at this time of the day. Besides, Narayan had recently told me he had given up drink as a thanksgiving for getting a son after 2 girls. It's terrible. They don't know what they are doing. He is not an ordinary monkey. He saw my face. Monkey, don't you know? I shook my head. Tell me. I listened, and as I did so, a huge amusement gathered inside me. So Raja is a monkey, I smiled. Yes, but not an ordinary one. That's what I meant. He is Hanuman, the monkey god himself. He is a reincarnation of that great god. No, this time I couldn't control my laughter, but he wasn't offended. In fact, he hadn't noticed. If he isn't, how is it that he hasn't died? With all that poison in him, he's still alive. All the other monkeys have died, but not this one. Why? Perhaps, I said gently, my amusement jolted by his belief. They haven't given him enough of whatever it is that they give the others. They have, I know it, and I know the doctors themselves don't understand why he isn't dead. That's why they are going to kill him. And they'll open him up to see what's happened inside him. But his anguished voice suddenly grew stronger. They can't do it. We won't let them. We'll go on a strike. We'll refuse to work. The bell rang harsh and strident. We looked at each other. The reports, I said. You are wanted. I'm going. At the door he stopped and flung back a defiant look. And I'm going to tell them about Raja. He marched out looking like Mahatma Gandhi going to confront the British Empire. I laughed aloud and thought, there's none as deaf as those who refuse to hear. But what was it to me? I sat down at my typewriter and went back to work. But our routine was all shattered now. There was an air of excitement of hysteria, all emanating from a monkey called Raja, who refused to die. Mystery, miracle, I heard her say to Narayan. Nonsense. There's an explanation for everything. If we kill the monkey. No, I'm wrong. She didn't say that. She said if we sacrifice it, then we will find out the cause soon enough. How can you believe in miracle in this age? When will you people learn? Never. I could almost hear Narayan thinking it. Never. Monkey god, reincarnation. I heard him speaking to Narayan and two others who went to him in delegation. Narayan knows that's fantastic, and really, I must say, you people are most illogical. If the monkey really is a god, it won't die anyway, so why are you worried? There was a solid silence. I stood there in front of the stationery cupboard, watching, listening, grinning. And listen, don't you know why you are doing this? It's a part of an important study we are doing. Look at this. He showed them something in the palm of his hand. Know what is this? Looks innocent enough, doesn't it? And grows everywhere too. But when people eat it, they get a strange disease. They fall sick, they suffer, they die. They listened in a respectful silence. And we want to know something of why they die and how and what happens inside. That's why we are feeding the monkeys with this. And this monkey, one of the men loudly cleared his throat, said, Raja, and his voice came out hoarse. Yes, this monkey, it's surprising he isn't dead. Quite interesting. All the more reasons why. For the second time he was interrupted. A miracle, Narayan said firmly. No, he spoke irritably. This is just what you have got to understand. The explanation is there, a scientific explanation. And it's important that we get it. Narayan still looked at him hopefully, unable to understand this intransigence. You leave Raja alone. He asked, his eyes as pleading as a child's. He shook his head. Impossible. The next day I went to the animal house to look at Raja. He was huge and dignified, like a king. And Raja means king, does it? I asked him. He stared back at me impassively, almost superciliously. Hello, Raja, I said. He gibbered and started giving up his superior pose. I laughed. My laughter was echoed by someone behind me. It was Narayan. Give him this, he said, handing me a banana. I held it out, but Raja sat where he was, his tail hanging down like a large inverted question mark, a disdainful look on his face. Oh, yes, I said, I know you're the king, and kings don't beg. At that, he swiftly clambered down at me, grabbed the banana from my hand, and was back in his place, the tail swinging, quivering, in its eyes twinkling, looking so like a mischievous, recalcitrant child that I had to laugh. And the monkey daintily peeled his banana and looked down scornfully at me as if saying, Why don't you mind your own business? What is my business? Is it to hold on to my job until I capture a man, marry him, bear him children, and live my life in such comfort with as much happiness as I can snatch from it? Suddenly I felt as the Buddha must have felt when he sat meditating under the Bodhi tree, illuminated and lightened. My business is to do what I feel like doing. And if I lose my perks, by the way, to hell with the perks. And what perks anyway? To be looked at it as if you don't exist. And so when Narayan asked me, why don't you come and talk to the doctor about Raja? Why don't you help us? I agreed instantly. When we reached his room, my heart was hammering like mad. And not only because I had climbed 2 flights of stairs, he was sitting and peering into the microscope and said without turning around, Who is it? Just a minute. Narayan and I stood there silent and immobile until he swung around on his swivel stool and asked us, What's it? Anything wrong? Everything I wanted to say, but I hadn't got back my breath yet. It's about Raja, I said when I could speak at last. Not that again, he said angrily. It's foolishness. One has got to be rational. I have explained it to him. It was the middle of May and the air was shimmering with the heat. There was a peepal tree just outside the window and its graceful leaves twinkled and danced in the sunlight. I stared at them, while an uneasy silence lingered between us, palpable and perceptible. You can't destroy someone's faith, I said at last. I was surprised by my own words. I hadn't meant to say them. But if it's built on sand? It isn't, I spoke slowly as the thought formulated itself in my mind. Faith is always built on a rock. It's only if you stop believing that you see it as sand. His eyes were puzzled. Tell me, why are you involved in this? Why is one ever involved in anything but one's comforts, one's own pleasure, one's own interest? Don't tell me you believe in all this shoddy, bogus religious stuff. Suddenly I was angry. How could he be so sure he had all the answers? Why not? I'd rather believe in that than in nothing. But you are an educated person, you can think. Surely you don't believe in this reincarnation. He repeated the word and laughed. The laughter was smooth, but it hurt. What do you believe in? I challenged him. He was not my boss now, nor was I a mere typist who couldn't talk that way to him. I had forgotten all that. Do you think that one is born and that's the beginning, and one dies and that's the end? Is that all of it? What else? What else? He asked me wonderingly. But when we come to life, is that the beginning? We bring with us so many burdens of the past. So much that has gone before clings to us without our knowing it. She came in, moving smoothly on her flat slippers, and I flattered. My throat went dry. She looked at Narayan and me in surprise. What is it? The monkey business again? He nodded. My God, can't they understand that there are no miracles? No, I said, looking around me. The shelves were laden with glass, jars, and bits of human beings pickled inside leered at us obscenely. There can be none here. You cut a human being and put the bits under a microscope and think you can find all the answers. But, and now my voice rose in triumph, you can put me under a microscope and you will never find me. A human being, that's a miracle. A baby's first cry, that's a miracle. A monkey's will to live, that's a miracle. It was a wonderful exit line. I walked to the door, his voice stopped me. It was suspiciously soft and mild. The next time you go to see the monkey, Raja, I corrected her. She went on as if I hadn't spoken. Take some flowers with you and a coconut. You can worship it. She laughed, and the laughter was like a cut made by a serrated knife, but it didn't hurt. And he looked at both of us with a peculiar look on his face. It was as if he had just realized the hostility between us. And that's what we were fighting about was not a monkey. He removed his glasses and rubbed them with his hanky. His eyes looked intimate and gentle without their protective cover. And then he spoke. And a mouse is a miracle enough to stagger sextillions of infidels. Talk of breaking through the sound barrier. It's nothing to breaking through the barrier humans build around themselves. And that's what he had just done. I teetered on the edge of ecstasy, and then she spoke. Who said that? He turned to her with an apologetic smile. Wait, Whitman. And the moment was lost forever. I walked out. I'm sorry, Narayana, you've lost. Wordlessly, he walked away from me, his shoulders bowed, his hands falling helplessly by his side. I couldn't believe it was the same Narayan the next morning. He was sparkling with excitement. Have you heard? He pounced on me. He's gone. Who's gone? Raja, he grinned. Gone? Where? No one knows. He escaped. It's a miracle. He devoutly folded his hands. Thank God we don't have that sin on our heads. I stifled my laughter in my sari. Are you sure, Narayan, you didn't help him to escape? Who, me? Am I mad? I'd lose my job if I did that. And what would happen to my wife and children? He moved around aimlessly, teaching things, then swiftly came over to me and whispered conspiratorially in my ear. And you know where he went? Like a shot straight to the Hanuman temple. I spluttered, but Narayan, how do you know? I thought you had nothing to do with the escape. Who let it out? It's a serious offense. Tell that to your friends who did it. I don't know. The time I firmly walked out, the door flapped noisily behind me. It was difficult to work that day. The atmosphere was one of suppressed hysteria, like a classroom of boys who have played a trick on their master and got away with it. But I knew I'd lost. It wasn't so much that he didn't see me now as that he willfully refused to see. I felt like a ghost as I walked in and out of his room with my work. At lunchtime, however, I lost my equilibrium and burst into tears over my soggy sandwiches. It did me good. I soon recovered myself, wiped my eyes, blew my nose, looked up, and there he was. Raja. He was standing on the window still looking at me, head held to one side as if in query. Raja, I choked over my sandwich. And what? I asked him sternly when I had recovered myself. What are you doing here? He stared at me impassively, his eyes full of ridiculous look of human intelligence that made me want to laugh. Do you know what you've done? Go away from here if you know what's good for you. He just sat there like a man unable to make up his mind. Well, you can have my dessert if you want. I held out a banana, but go. He darted forward, took the banana from me, and nonchalantly jumped into the branches, setting the leaves dancing and quivering again. In the sunlight, the pointed ends of the leaves looked like flashing needles of light. I had nothing to do with it, but he didn't need anyone's help. You think locks and keys can keep in a god? I shook with laughter. Go away, you rascal. Go and do your work and let me do mine. When the bell rang, I knew what it was. She was standing, her bald fist showing in the pocket of her white coat, saying to him, But you can't let them get away with it. What can I do? He looked his usual self, but there were tiny lines like cracks round his mouth. Punish them, have an inquiry, all our work stalled, wasted. No, it'll go on. And then they saw me. I put down the papers and walked out. Come back. Her voice pulled me like a taut lasso, and his look of cold anger hit me like Muhammad Ali's fist. You, she exclaimed, you know all about it. How could I? You were on their side. You must be knowing it. Who let out the monkey? What monkey? I asked innocently. Raja, he said, and I almost chuckled loudly. Here was a miracle. He had recognized a monkey's identity. Miracles! I smiled to myself and picked up my glass of water. I had just taken a sip when it happened again. I choked. How long had he been standing in the door? I put down the glass, coughing, the tears running down my face. I didn't. I stammered when I could speak. Then I was angry with myself. What was I worried about? My job? I did it, I said at last. Did what? His voice shook. He was laughing. Twinkles of laughter streaked across his face. I let him escape. He smiled as though he knew I lied, but absently. He was looking at the tree outside the window. You're right, he said. He was speaking slowly, hesitantly, as if making a painful confession. There are miracles everywhere if you only open your eyes. He was just a test animal. And now, when I saw him in the tree, there was astonishment in his voice. He was suddenly a monkey called Raja. And Narayana, I had to say it. It is a man with two daughters and a son, and faith in Hanuman. His gaze deserted the tree and came to me. And you? He asked. I stared. I could see myself in his glass. A girl with a tear-streaked face dressed in a bright yellow sari. He bent down and the images disappeared. His glasses came in the way. He took them off. You, he said after a while, his hands lingering in my hair, are another miracle. No, I said bluntly. Yes, I mean it. He and I, that's no miracle. That's just inevitable. And if I love strong coffee while he drinks weak tea, and I love bright colors while he blinks his eyes at them, so what? Who ever heard of an incompatible Hindu marriage? Thank you for listening.